The ice in her glass sounded like tiny bells every time she stirred it, and somehow that was the most interesting thing about the entire night. We were sitting at one of those trendy wine bars stuffed inside a busy mall, the kind with bright lights, fake plants, and music that tried too hard to be cool. People walked past us carrying shopping bags, laughing, looking relaxed, like life was working out for them. It felt like everyone else was on vacation, except me. My name is Lucas Hayes. I live in San Diego, and I work as a forensic accountant for an insurance company. In simple terms, I look at numbers when someone thinks they are being scammed, and I find the lie. I am good at patterns, and the pattern tonight was obvious. This blind date was a mistake. So when he left the toilet seat up again, I told him that was emotional abuse, my date said, stirring her sangria like she was casting a spell. Her name was Jenna. A coworker had set us up. She was in her late 30s, wearing a nice dress and a lot of makeup, and she had not asked me a single question about my life in the last 30 minutes. Right, I said, taking a sip of my soda. Exactly, she said, nodding hard. I need a man who listens. My therapist says I deserve that. She glanced down at her phone again, her thumb moving fast. A notification from another dating app flashed on her screen. I looked at our reflection in the window beside us. I saw my gray t-shirt, my quiet face, and the way my body leaned slightly away from her, like I was already halfway gone. That was when the air changed. It was subtle at first. The smell of the place shifted, cutting through wine and food. Jasmine, salt water. The fine hairs on my arms lifted before my brain caught up. I turned my head toward the walkway, and I saw her. Rebecca Hart moved through the crowd like she belonged there. Dark hair twisted loosely at the back of her head, a simple white blouse, dark jeans, leather sandals, no flashy jewelry, just a silver bracelet and a small gold necklace I had seen 100 times growing up. She was carrying 2 shopping bags and a coffee. She was my best friend's mom. She was also the first woman I ever had a crush on. I met her when I was 12. The day my friend Tyler dragged me over to his house to play video games. Rebecca had brought us pizza and asked me how school was, like I was a real person, not just her son's friend. I spent the next 10 years trying not to stare every time she walked into a room. Now she was walking straight toward me. She saw me before I could look away. Her eyes moved from Jenna to the wine glass, then back to me. A slow, amused smile curved her mouth. So, she said, stopping beside our table, her voice low and warm. You do like older women. Interesting. Heat slammed into the back of my neck. I almost knocked over my drink. Jenna blinked and sat up straighter. Do you two know each other? She asked. I swallowed. Yeah, I said. This is Rebecca. She's Tyler's mom. My best friend. Quote. Rebecca held my gaze for a second too long, like she was reading every thought in my head. It's good to see you, Lucas, she said. You clean up well. Then she nodded politely at Jenna and stepped back into the crowd. Enjoy your night, she added over her shoulder. And just like that, she was gone. My heart was beating way too fast for a casual moment at the mall. She's pretty, Jenna said, studying my face. You never mentioned your friend had a hot mom. It never came up, I said. She went back to talking about her ex and his gym habits, but I barely heard her. My mind stayed stuck on Rebecca's words. You do like older women. The thing was, she wasn't wrong. Most of the women I had been drawn to lately were older, steadier, less interested in games. Dating women my own age always felt like homework. With older women, it felt like the room had already grown up. But Rebecca was different. She was off limits. Or she had been, until she looked at me like that. After I walked Jenna to her car and said the polite, "This was fun," I sat alone in my car, staring at my phone. No messages from Tyler. One new text from an unknown number. You looked miserable, Ma. My chest tightened. I typed back before I could stop myself. You weren't supposed to see that. Her reply came fast. Bad blind date. Painful. I smiled in the dark. A second later, another message came in. Come by tomorrow. I could use help with something. Noon. My pulse jumped. Sure, I typed. I'll be there. I knew I should ask what she needed help with. I knew I should treat it like any normal favor for a friend's parent. But the truth was simple. If Rebecca Hart asked me to show up, I was going to show up. The next day, the sun over the bay was bright enough to make the water look like broken glass. I drove with the windows down, trying to convince myself this was normal. Helping a friend's mom. Lunch. A favor. Nothing else. Rebecca's restaurant sat right on the boardwalk, a small, worn place with blue trim and chairs that always needed repainting. The sign still said Dockside, the same way it had since I was a kid. I parked, took a breath, and went in through the side door. The smell hit me first. Garlic, grilled fish, fresh bread. It wrapped around me like a memory. The lunch rush had not started yet. 2 cooks were chopping vegetables. Someone laughed near the back. Rebecca stood at the far end of the kitchen with a clipboard in her hand. She wore jeans and a gray Dockside t-shirt, her hair pulled into a messy knot. There was a smear of flour on her forearm. She looked tired. She also looked like she was holding the whole place together by force of will. She glanced up and saw me. Her shoulders dropped a little. "You came," she said. "You told me to," I replied. "I'm very obedient." She snorted. "That's a lie. You and Tyler broke every rule I ever made." "Only the dumb ones," I said. She smiled, and my chest did something I did not want to analyze. "Come with me," she said. She led me down a narrow hallway to a tiny office in the back. A desk, a filing cabinet, a corkboard covered in photos and notes. She closed the door. The noise of the kitchen faded, and suddenly the room felt very small. "So," I said, trying to sound casual, "what do you need help with?" She handed me the clipboard. "I got this yesterday," she said. "I've read it 3 times and I still feel sick." It was a letter on heavy paper. Official. My brain switched gears without asking permission. Notice of lease termination. I scanned it quickly. New owner. Massive rent increase. 30 days to accept the new terms or leave. The numbers were not just high. They were impossible. "Who owns the building now?" I asked. "Some company called Pacific Vista Holdings," she said. "They bought the block last month." I thought it meant maybe fixing the pipes. Instead, they want to triple my rent. Her voice stayed calm, but her hands shook. She shoved them into her back pockets. "I can't pay this," she said. "If I sign, I drown. If I don't, I lose everything." She laughed once, flat and tired. "Sorry. You came here for lunch, not my meltdown." I set the clipboard down. "No," I said. "I came because you said you needed help." She studied my face like she was deciding who I was now. "You do numbers," she said. "Insurance stuff." "Fraud." "Creative lying," I said. I tapped the letter. "This smells bad." She hesitated. "Why would they do this?" Quote, "Because they don't want you to stay," I said. "They want the space." Silence filled the office. "You really think that?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "And I think they're counting on you being too tired to fight." She looked away. "I am tired, Lucas." "I know," I said. "Let me help." She turned back to me. "Why would you do that?" I could have given a safe answer. Experience, money, practice. Instead, I told the truth. "Because I don't want to watch you lose this place." Something in her expression shifted. "This isn't fair to you," she said. "You're my son's best friend." "You helped me for years," I said. "Pizza nights, rides, talking Tyler out of dumb decisions. Let me return the favor." She exhaled slowly. "You're not a kid anymore, are you?" "No," I said. "I'm not." She nodded once. "Okay, you're hired. Payment is 1 staff meal per visit, and the right to tell me when I'm being stupid." "Deal," I said. I picked the letter back up and started reading like it was a case file. As I did, she stepped closer to look over my shoulder. I felt her presence before I saw her. The light scent of her perfume. Warm, familiar. My pulse stumbled. "Lucas," she said softly. "Yeah?" "If we're doing this," she said, "we need rules." That word hit harder than the letter. "Rules," I repeated. "Yes," she said. "First, we keep this professional. Business only." "Okay," I said. Second, she continued, no flirting. I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. She raised one eyebrow. You used to blush when I said your name, she said. You think I didn't notice? Heat crept up my neck. I was a kid. You're not anymore, she said. That's the problem. The room felt tight. Third rule, she said. We don't tell Tyler. That one stung. You think he'd be mad? I asked. I think he'd feel weird, she said. This is my mess. Needing help doesn't make you weak, I said. She gave a small smile. Tell my pride that. She handed me a folder. Everything I have is in here. Quote, we spent the next hour going through leases and emails. The old agreement was fair. The new one was a trap, triple rent, short notice. A clause that let them kick her out any time. They want you gone, I said. She sank into the chair. Then what do? We don't sign anything, I said. And we find out who Pacific Vista really is. She stood. I need to get back to the kitchen, use the office. She paused at the door. And Lucas? Yeah? If I panic, she said, don't say you told me so. I never say that, I replied. You think it, she said, smiling. When she left, I opened my laptop and started digging. Pacific Vista wasn't just a landlord. They owned waterfront properties up the coast. Small places. Old places. Most of them gone now. I felt my jaw tighten. Someone knocked. Rebecca leaned in, holding a plate of food. Thought you might need this, she said. I looked up at her, tired and strong and trying not to show how scared she was. Yeah, I said. I really did. Quote, by the end of that week, the office at the back of the restaurant had turned into our quiet war room, papers stacked on the desk, notes taped to the corkboard. My laptop lived there more than it lived at my apartment. Pacific Vista Holdings was worse than I thought. They bought aging waterfront properties all over Southern California. Small diners, bait shops, family restaurants. The pattern never changed. Sudden rent hikes, short deadlines, friendly buyout offers that vanished fast. Within a year, the old businesses were gone, replaced by shiny plans and empty promises. Rebecca stood beside me while I scrolled through another city record. They don't want the rent, she said quietly. They want the land. Exactly, I said. And they don't care who gets crushed in the process. Her phone buzzed. She checked it and sighed. Property manager just emailed again, she said. Deadline moved up. 2 weeks. They're trying to scare you, I said. It's working, she admitted. That night she asked me to come by her house to look at more paperwork. I told myself it was fine. I had been there 100 times growing up. Nothing had changed. Everything had changed. Her bungalow smelled like cinnamon and clean laundry. She wore soft black leggings and an oversized dockside sweatshirt. Her hair was down, loose around her shoulders. I felt like I had walked into someone else's life. We sat on the couch, papers spread out on the coffee table. Our knees brushed. Neither of us moved away. At one point, she stopped reading and looked at me. You always get this look, she said, when you're solving something. Is that bad? I asked. No, she said. It's intense. The word landed heavy. Rebecca, I said carefully, about the other night at the mall. She met my eyes. It bothered me more than it should have. My chest tightened. I didn't like seeing you with someone who didn't care if you were there, she said. Rule check, I said quietly. No flirting. I'm not flirting, she said. I'm being honest. That somehow felt worse. 2 days later, the first real threat showed up. A man in a pressed polo with the Pacific Vista logo walked into the restaurant like he owned the floor. He introduced himself as Mark Denton, property manager. I'm here as a courtesy, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Lease deadline is coming up. Rebecca stood her ground, but I could see the strain in her shoulders. You sign, you stay, Mark said. You don't, we move on. That's business. I slid my laptop toward him. I've been looking at your company, I said. Santa Barbara, Ventura, Oceanside. His smile thinned. You should be careful, he said. You're not part of this. Rebecca touched my arm. It was a warning and a thank you all at once. After he left, the office felt smaller. I hate needing you, she said. You don't need me, I said. You want help. There's a difference. She looked at me like she was trying not to fall. Then she did. 3 days later, she kissed me in the office. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't planned. It was heat and fear and years of holding back crashing together. The second she pulled away, reality slammed back in. "This is wrong," she said. "You're younger. You're Tyler's best friend. I can't do this." "I'm not a kid," I said. "You should go," she said, her voice shaking. So I did. That weekend, I worked nonstop. Campaign donation records, city planning notices, names that kept repeating. Pacific Vista wasn't just pushing tenants out. They were greasing the system. Sunday night, the proof lined up. Monday, the city council met to vote on redevelopment for our block. Rebecca stood to speak. I stood with her. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. She spoke facts, patterns, names. When the room finally went quiet, the vote was tabled. We walked out into the night together. "I broke all the rules," she said. "I'm okay with that," I replied. She looked at me under the streetlight. "So you do like older women?" "Only one," I said. She smiled like she already knew, and for the first time I realized this wasn't just about saving a restaurant. It was about choosing each other. After the council meeting, nothing felt settled, even though everyone kept saying we had won. The vote was only delayed, not killed. Pacific Vista was quiet, which scared me more than their threats. People like that did not back off. They waited. Rebecca threw a community night at the restaurant that Friday. No cover, cheap drinks. A local band that played a little off-key and did not care. The place was packed. People hugged her, thanked her, told stories about first dates and birthdays at her tables. I stayed close but tried not to hover. Tyler flew back early that night. I did not know he was coming until I heard his voice behind me. "There you are," he said. I turned around and felt my stomach drop. He looked tired from travel, but his eyes were sharp. "We need to talk," he said. "Okay," I replied, my heart already racing. He nodded toward the back door. We stepped outside where the ocean air cut through the noise. He leaned against the wall and crossed his arms. "Mom told me," he said. I swallowed. I didn't plan for any of this. He studied my face for a long moment. "You think I didn't notice you staring at her since we were teenagers?" I blinked. "You knew, quote." He snorted. "Everyone knew. We just pretended not to." I waited for the anger. It never came. "You helped save her business," he continued. "You showed up when it mattered. If anyone is going to be with her, I'd rather it be you than some guy who doesn't care." Relief hit me so hard my knees almost gave. "Break her heart," he added, "and I'll break your face." "That's fair," I said. When we went back inside, Rebecca saw us together and froze. Tyler walked straight to her, kissed her cheek, and said, "You okay?" She nodded, eyes wide. He glanced at me and gave a small nod. That was it. No drama, no yelling. Just acceptance. Later that night, when the crowd thinned, Rebecca found me behind the bar. "You didn't have to stay," she said. "I wanted to," I replied. She hesitated, then took my hand in full view of everyone still there. No hiding. "I'm scared," she said quietly. "Me too," I admitted. "But I don't want to pretend this didn't happen," she said. "Good," I said, "because I'm really bad at pretending." A week later, the next move came. Pacific Vista filed a revised proposal. New name, new shell company, same plan. They wanted to push it through quietly. "This is retaliation," Rebecca said, slamming the email down on the desk. "It's desperation," I replied. "And it means we're close." We spent nights at her kitchen table, laptops open, coffee going cold. Sometimes we talked business. Sometimes we talked about nothing. About her failed marriage. About my lonely apartment. About how strange it felt to finally say what we had avoided for years. One night, she reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm not good at this," she said. "Letting someone help me. Letting someone close." "I'm not asking you to be good at it," I said. "Just honest." She nodded slowly. The second council meeting was louder. Reporters showed up. Former tenants spoke. One council member asked hard questions. Pacific Vista's lawyer lost his calm smile. When the vote came, it wasn't even close. The redevelopment proposal was denied, not delayed. Denied. The room broke into applause. Rebecca sat down hard, her face in her hands. I wrapped an arm around her without thinking. Outside, she laughed and cried at the same time. "It's over," she said. "For now," I replied, "but you won." She turned to me, eyes bright. "We won." That night, we went back to her place. No papers, no laptops, just quiet. She stood in the doorway, unsure. "I don't want this to be a secret anymore," she said. "It doesn't have to be," I replied. She stepped into my arms like she had been waiting to do it for years. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time, it felt shared. And that changed everything. After the vote, life did not slow down the way I expected. It sped up. The dockside was busier than it had been in years. People came in just to say congratulations. Some came because they had read about the fight in the paper. Others came because they wanted to support something real while it still existed. Rebecca handled it all with quiet strength, but I saw the cracks when the doors closed at night. One evening, she sat at the bar long after the staff had gone home, staring at the wood like it might answer her questions. "You're still waiting for the other shoe to drop," I said. She nodded. "I don't trust calm anymore." I slid onto the stool beside her. "You don't have to trust it. Just don't face it alone." She leaned her shoulder against mine. It was a small thing, but it felt huge. We kept things quiet at first, not secret, just private. People noticed anyway. They always do. The way she looked for me when she walked into a room. The way my hand found the small of her back without thinking. Tyler noticed too. He said nothing, just smiled when he caught us together. One night, after a long shift, Rebecca locked the door and turned off the lights. The restaurant glowed softly from the street lamps outside. "You know," she said, "I never planned for this." "Me neither," I replied. "I had spreadsheets, not feelings." She laughed and rested her forehead against my chest. "I'm scared I'll mess this up," she said. "So am I," I admitted. "That usually means it matters." She pulled back just enough to look at me. "You don't feel trapped?" "No," I said. "I feel chosen." Quote. That word made her inhale sharply. A few days later, Pacific Vista made their last move, a legal notice, cold, precise. They were challenging the council decision. Rebecca read it twice and set it down. "I'm tired," she said. I took her hands. "Then lean." She closed her eyes and let her weight rest against me. The hearing was quick, their argument weak. The council dismissed it. When it was over, Rebecca didn't cheer. She just breathed. That night, she came home and kicked off her shoes in the doorway. "I think I'm done fighting," she said. "Good," I replied. "You won." She looked at me like she was seeing something new. "You stayed," she said, "even when you didn't have to." "I wasn't going anywhere," I said. She reached up and touched my face, slow and careful. "Then, I'm not either," she said. We sat on the couch, legs tangled, the future stretching out in front of us. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was real, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The first morning I woke up at Rebecca's place and realized it felt normal, scared me more than all the chaos before it. Sunlight came through the kitchen window. The smell of coffee filled the room. She stood at the counter in an old t-shirt, hair messy, humming softly like the world had not almost taken everything from her. "You're staring," she said without turning around. "I'm memorizing," I replied. She smiled and handed me a mug. "Careful. That's how habits start." "I'm good with habits," I said. The dockside settled into a new rhythm after that. Stronger, louder, more loved. Rebecca hired 2 more servers. She laughed more. Slept better. Sometimes she still woke up worried, but when she did, she reached for me instead of spiraling alone. Tyler came by often. Sometimes he sat with us after closing, beer in hand, talking about work and life like nothing had changed. Everything had changed. One night, a couple at the bar asked how long Rebecca and I had been together. She paused, glanced at me, then answered, "Longer than we admitted. Shorter than it feels." Quote. I liked that answer. A month later, Pacific Vista sold their interest in the block, quietly, no announcement, no apology, just gone. Another developer stepped in with a plan that included keeping existing businesses. It wasn't perfect, but it was fair. Rebecca framed the new lease and hung it in the office. "This one stays," she said. So did I. People still whispered sometimes. About the age difference. About the history. Rebecca heard it. I did too. One evening she asked, "Does it bother you?" I shook my head. "They didn't fight beside you. I did." She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. That's what I thought. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, when the restaurant closed early, we sat on the boardwalk with our feet dangling over the water. The sky was orange and pink. The air smelled like salt and fried food from somewhere down the pier. "You know," she said, "I used to think love was supposed to arrive loud." "And now?" I asked. "Now I think it shows up and stays," she said. "Even when it's inconvenient." I reached for her hand. "Good. I'm terrible at leaving." Quote. She laughed and leaned her head on my shoulder. Later that night, she said the words that finally made everything real. "I'm in," she said. "No rules, no pretending." "So am I said. Sometimes I think back to that blind date. The noise, the ice clinking in a glass. The moment everything shifted. If Rebecca hadn't walked by that night, I might still be sitting in places that never felt right, wondering why something was always missing. Instead, I wake up beside the woman who saw me before I ever learned how to ask to be seen. And every day after that feels like something we chose.